My next brief upload today is with regard to failings and what happens when failings occur. The matter of resolution and reparations is a very important step in the process of success. When we notice a defect of character, as the fellowship highlights for us, we correct it. The same as in any other agency of society. When there's a problem, you fix it. You solve problems. There's a process, and it's clearly stipulated. It's very simply processed, and it's very serious, I think, in my opinion, when individuals, professionals choose to make problems worse rather than fixing the problems they're making. So the problems I've been experiencing, that professionals, qualified and etc., that have been causing failings and misconduct since 2016, since I became a married mother, have been gradually and incrementally making bigger problems. They've stepped over lines. They haven't dotted the P's and Q's of the lines that they're overstepping. They haven't a signature of consent on their lines. They've trespassed and stepped over the line, and they haven't been very professionally courteous. Now, I'm a teacher. I've graduated from the University of Limerick. I have a very huge interest in sociology, media and anthropology. That has always been an interest in my formative years, and former years before 1999, when I attended the University of Limerick. And then after the advocacy study work for recovery, I went on to do a postgraduate diploma, a postgraduate in education. So as I've mentioned, I'm a qualified professional, and I've worked for the betterment of people's mental health and recovery and sanity sobriety. And I'm sharing on a daily basis due to the insanity that I'm confronted with. There are individuals that have intruded upon me, as I've mentioned in my previous upload about my spiritual sacred purpose. As a Fernan Royal, I'm a sacred sentient being. I have a very special purpose, and it has been lambasted and intruded upon and disrespected by very bad practices and procedures and protocol of fraudulent individuals. So anyway, this upload is with regard to the wrongdoings and good practices that everyone is entitled to expect. Everyone is entitled to expect good practice. It doesn't matter whether you're up high or down low or in between on the hierarchy of wealth and power. Everyone is entitled to fair procedures. That's called a human right. This is very basic. But these individuals that have taken liberties and been very cheeky, they've been very careless as well, I might add. They haven't been very spiritually courteous, and they haven't been very legally correct. And they haven't been very, with regard to the monetary process of what they've been taking and stuff. So there's been awful problems. And they've been making problems bigger. And when this involves treason, when individuals are intruding upon my Fernan family, my O'Regan, O'Sullivan, my Griffin McCalliget, when people are intruding upon my Quinlan and O'Sullivan family and getting highly disrespectful towards my beautiful child and I, that they should not have ever intruded upon, that's careless and disrespectful to all families' ancestry, because we're all interconnected and intertwined. We're all interrelated. So people that are treasonous and disrespecting people's bloodlines and not correcting their mistakes, and when they're not playing by the rules, and when they haven't got their P's and Q's on the dotted line perfect, and when they've ignored the laws, and when they keep making problems worse, I'm just very curious about the outcome, about negotiation, favour tactics, people avoiding the consequences of their actions, looking for favours. If I do this, will you do that? And then we'll get rid of that. We'll put that away. We don't have to look at that, but we'll take the credit for what that did, and we'll say that we were successful with this, this and this, and we won't have to worry about answering to the facts of the situation about the problems we caused. Is that a big favour to be expecting from any establishment or agency that hasn't got a good repertoire of success since offence commenced? I'm really curious with people's tactics about, negotiation and stuff when they're not playing in a proper level playing field. Shifting the goalposts and ignoring the laws and the rules. It's just highly questionable, the outcomes of these kind of circumstances when there's been so much damage and no reparation. The Fellowship is fully aware that I'm due reparations and amends since 2006. The Fellowship is fully aware of the amends I'm owed. That amends has been exacerbated with the abduction of my son. Now, these are all very serious issues that the OCO have been made aware of, and the Honourable Government also. So I think it's very dangerous when people are negotiating on a premise of favours. Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap is a beautiful tune. I love it very much. It's a great AC/DC song. And it reminds me of present circumstances and people's behaviours and the games people play when people aren't being courteous and disrespectful to the source of the light that they have stolen from my child and I, and trying to rewrite a fallacy on a false premise and a false construct. That's all very dangerous. There's a fantastic book with regard to the origins of our Lord and how the script was rewritten back then as well. It's a very interesting book. And the same seems to be apparent at the moment as well, when people are trying to fit the story and plot to suit their own liking. And that's quite dangerous. And when it comes to legislative developments, societal developments, spiritual developments, and when people aren't reading the laws properly, and when they're not adhering to the laws properly, I'm really concerned about how they consider themselves as professionals. It's very dangerous for repeat offenders to ever assault a mother whose child was abducted. Everyone is fully aware of the harms my child experienced and that there were no lawful grounds for my child to be separated from me. That's a very dangerous offence in a modern day democracy. So I'm really concerned about what the children's rights groups think of this situation when a child has been in the circumstance that my son has been in. And I'm wondering about the Honourable Government and honourability a lot these days as well in a democracy, 2021. I equate 2020 with people's vision. 2020, was it a year when people started seeing properly before they started deluding themselves with silly nonsense and falsehoods and fallacies? So it's really interesting. And I'm wondering what everyone of culture and cultural studies and sociology would be thinking from the University of Limerick if they knew that their graduate, Maria McElligott, was experiencing creative and intellectual and spiritual theft. People speaking of a spiritual experience that they aren't a part of and that they aren't after, being awarded or rewarded with. And when they have a dirty track record of very dirty offences and blasphemy and defamation, that's very dangerous to try and play flick and switch with. Identity theft is very dangerous. And there's been creative and intellectual theft from my work as well. So there's many facets to all of this, but the very basic premise is, who's big enough and brave enough to correct their wrongdoings? I'm waiting since 2017 for the Honourable Government to help with this problem, and I'm wondering, why haven't they fixed the problems? And why have the problems become a bit more serious? So I'm then now querying the level of professionalism. And I'm also very curious about the church and state perspective with regard to individuals thinking they're of my Fernandez bloodline, when they aren't. It's very dangerous to change ancestral records. And it's very dangerous for people to intrude upon a royal family and change records and think they're becoming, when they aren't there at all, and when they've been disrespecting and damaging and defaming. So those deluded enough to think that with this bit of spiritual violence, a few light fragments and a few prayers will fix the damages we've caused and we'll consider ourselves royal. That's not, treason is not safe for people in society. It's not safe to be messing with people's ancestral records. That has happened in my personal case. I have a royal title. I'm a sacred royal. And I'm just wondering what the government thinks it's doing, with 3 years of a delay waiting for an acknowledgement with regard to the unlawful actions caused. It's highly, highly serious. So how professional really are people these days when they evade and avoid with we don't address these problems, we ignore our failings and we move on and we cause repeat offences. That's not very professional. So that's just my present upload now at the moment with regard to the medical negligence, the bodily integrity damages, the very dangerous human rights abuses I'm experiencing, and my beautiful child not in my care. He received perfect care since the day he was born. And to separate a child from his mother, it's very serious. So as they say, you so much as harm an innocent life and you harm humanity. That's what they say. So I'd appreciate the Honourable Government addressing these matters and issues that I'm unduly experiencing due to fraud and imposters in my private life where they've no right to be.